This podcast is a production of Widener Law Commonwealth in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. For more information, visit commonwealthlaw.widener.edu/podcast.
Hello and welcome to Widener Law Commonwealth's podcast, the first one for 2023. I'm your host, Tara Mead. Considering that law school is a pretty big step, as well as a huge commitment, so once you've decided this is a step you want to take, pursuing your legal career, another significant decision awaits. Which law school is the right one for you? Today I'll be talking with Matt Kerns, our Associate Dean of Admissions here at Widener Law Commonwealth, who can provide some advice and direction for prospective law students. Dean Kerns, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I know in your experience you've worked with many potential students at various stages of their law school journey, from the initial inquiry to providing information about our law school to following up on questions they have and everything in between. So once a decision's made to go to law school, what would you recommend as the next step? Would it be narrowing down a location or school size or both or something else?
Yeah, it really depends on the student and what their goals are for legal education. I think there's two crucial questions that students need to ask themselves during the admissions process before they ever apply to law school. And the first is, why law school? What are they passionate about that really makes them want to go to law school? Is it a specific area of law? Is it helping people? Is it serving their community? They need to know what they're passionate about, because once they figure that out, then they can start narrowing down the law school that they want to go into, or at least start looking at law schools with a little bit more direction. The second question I think they need to ask themselves is, why that law school? Why are they applying to that law school? Is it the mission of the law school? Is it programs? Is it professors? Is it the size, location? That's when they really dive into their research. And then when they apply to the law schools and start making that decision, they can, when their passion meets the law school's mission or programs, that's when we see a really good fit, both for the student and both for the law school. It's a good fit for the students.
So since there are so many different law schools and different sizes and different types that students can, choose from, what are some recommendations that you have for these students to keep in mind when they're considering law schools, in addition to that criteria that you just mentioned?
Yeah, when they're looking at law schools, they really need to dive into, what that law school's mission is and its programs, and if it meets those passions. So, a large law school might be a great fit for a student because they want, that larger environment. But for other students, they might want a smaller environment where they get to know their classmates and professors a little bit better, have that little bit more intimate connection. It's really up to the student what they want. I think, doing your research is probably the best thing that a student can do. Look on the webpage, get to know what a law school looks like, from, that vantage point. But after you've done your research, then go visit the school if you can, or if you can't visit the school in person, attend a virtual information session or check out their YouTube page. Start doing your research so you can get a feel of what that law school's like, what the community's like, and whether you'd be a good fit.
And how soon should they start? Should they start maybe when they first, maybe their junior year of their undergrad, or, senior year? When is a good time, roughly?
Yeah, generally it's best to start the law school application process the junior year of college, if you're in college, or if you're out of college 2 years prior to when you want to enter law school. And that's because your junior year, you can really start doing that high-level research. You can think about why you're passionate about going into law school, why you want to take on that challenge. You can start thinking about and doing your research about different law schools. And then you can start studying for any standardized tests you need to take, like the LSAT or the GRE. Most students begin taking those the summer after their junior year, when they might have a little less classroom responsibilities and can dedicate more time to studying for those tests. And so that's really when the process begins, and students can start thinking about that. Now, if you begin that process in your senior year or a year out from when you want to enter law school, it's definitely doable. You just need to be more focused. You need to really come up with a plan, because your timeline is crunched down a little bit.
So when students arrive at a law school for a tour or an open house, what are some of the questions that they should ask? What should they keep top of mind?
Yeah, I think the students that make the most out of visiting campuses are the ones that have done their research in advance and know about the different programs and can ask questions about how they can participate in different things. You know, it might be important to them that they work in a clinic or have externship or internship experience. And so they can begin asking questions about how they can participate in those programs, or maybe student organizations. Campus community might be important to students, so they might want to ask about maybe whether they can speak with a student or a student ambassador. Those are great questions. The students that I enjoy meeting with the most come in with a little notepad with questions that they want to ask, and they've been doing their research.
The list, right?
And they just go down the list. I love when students do that because it just shows that they're prepared. They know why they want to go to law school, and I find those really enjoyable because I love checklists and going down them. So students come in with those. It's great for me.
And also, the opportunity to have class sit-ins is something that we've sort of reinvigorated here at the law school, and I think that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, class observations are great. If students have time to do that, you can sit in a real law school class and get a sense for that community and what those classes are like. Don't think you're going to walk away with like a ton of legal substance because it's one class out of a whole semester. But you can kind of get a feel for what the law school's like. And a lot of times afterwards, after class is done, the other students will be really interested in why you're there and start talking to you, and you can ask questions of the students that are in class or meet the professor, which is nice as well.
Another thing, too, I think is important is getting a feel for the area. I mean, for example, there are some law schools that provide housing and some that don't. So, questions about, the sort of like student experience, living experience, I would think would be a good one as well that they
the student experience, you're going to be part of the community for at least 3 years if you're a full-time student and 4 years as a part-time student. So the community is going to be important. You're going to need to figure out where you're going to live. You need to figure out how you're going to get to school, whether that's commuting or driving, or if you live close enough to campus to walk, that's great as well. And so those might be very important questions to answer for you, because this is literally going to be like your whole life for 3 years. So being able to prepare for that in advance is good.
And also knowing who to reach out to or what department to reach out to if they have additional questions. Because I know sometimes, they may have a question about housing or maybe some of the, areas that, would be more likely to rent or offer, housing options for students. Best places to go out to eat in a pinch or what have you. So I would think that would be something too that, when students come to, say, our campus, they want to know, okay, you're a good resource. Other people within our team are good resources to reach out to should they think of questions after the fact or, maybe down the road at some point.
Yeah, there's always questions that'll come up later after a student visits campus, which is totally fine. My advice on that is always reach out to the admissions professional that you talked with to set up your tour, that works in that office, because they're going to be the best resource to at least direct you to the right information if you don't have it. So use them as sort of like that hub for your information, and they can spoke out the rest of the answers if they need to. But they're going to be your point of contact.
The admissions hub, I like that.
Yep.
Now, what are some red flags, though, that potential students should be mindful of when they're figuring out their next steps and trying to find the right law school environment, I guess for a better word, for them?
Yeah, that's really going to vary from student to student because everyone's going to have their different priorities and needs and wants in a law school. And so, I think when students are going through that evaluation process about why they want to go to law school and why they want to go to specific law schools, they need to think about what they don't want in a law school as well. If they want, to get to know their classmates and get to know their professors, then maybe those are questions that they need to ask when they're visiting campus, or ask of current students or admissions officers, because that's going to vary widely from school to school. Some schools are very research oriented and might not have that same you might not have that same interaction with faculty where they get to know your names, and that might be a red flag to you. Or like you love that and you just want to be a number, that's cool as well. So you might not want to know your faculty members. You might just be there for classes, and that's cool too. But that's your choice, and you got to kind of figure that out. And so, when you're thinking about what you want in a law school, they should also be thinking about what they don't want in law schools, and those will be the red flags, I think.
So would these on-campus visits also be a good time to ask about networking opportunities and other sorts of opportunities for students? I know here at Widener Law Commonwealth, we offer several opportunities for students to get engaged with the student organizations and other networking events during the academic year.
Yeah, law school and the legal profession is a lot about networking. That's very true. And so having a robust campus community and opportunities to, get involved in student organizations is going to be important to your professional development. There's that classroom component to law school, then there's all the out-of-classroom components that really make you a professional after you graduate law school. And so, those are, depending on what your goals are, those might be very important to you. And so, that's absolutely something that students should be thinking about.
And of course, with our location, those networking opportunities are, I think, what makes us unique in that we're so close to the state capitol. We're so close to these different state organizations and state and federal courts too. So, someone coming here may think, okay, well, maybe this isn't as big of a campus as some of the other ones I've been to, but as far as looking at sort of like the high-level overview, those networking opportunities could be a pretty huge factor.
Yeah, and that's something that students should take into account when they're coming to a law school is what are how accessible are those opportunities? If you're in a big city, there might be 5 different law schools, with hundreds, maybe thousands of students all competing for very competitive positions, and so those positions don't open up very often, or they're hard to get within that legal community. But as you mentioned, here in Harrisburg, we're the only law school in the state's capital city, and so we have those clerkships. We've got those placements at law firms and within the government that are a lot more accessible to students, and they're accessible year-round because we're the only law school here, and folks need legal help, so they take our students, which is a great resume builder for a lot of folks.
And we also have a full-time legislature too. So when you've met with students and they come to you with hopefully a list of questions, as you mentioned before, are there any questions that they've asked you that have surprised you at all?
Yeah, there's always surprising questions. I can't think of any off the top of my head that were shocking questions by any means. But I think that the most surprising thing is when students come in and they're well prepared, to be honest with you. If they come in with a list of questions, good. I'm always surprised and happy to see that, because it doesn't happen a lot. And it shows that candidate was very thoughtful in the application process. They're very prepared and ready to be a young professional or a professional in the legal field. And so that preparation is key and really shows through when students do it well.
So take note, prospective law school students, bring lots of questions.
Yeah.
Dean Kerns will be more than happy to address them here. So I know that we've covered a lot of ground here in this conversation in somewhat of a relatively short period of time. Is there anything else that you'd like to add specifically, things that maybe we didn't cover, or things that prospective students should bear in mind?
I guess for students to bear in mind, I think law schools, we talk about holistic review of applications, and I think students often think that it doesn't actually happen, that they just need an LSAT score or a GPA or a combination of both to get in. That's really not the case. Law schools really do look at applications holistically. They really want to know in your personal statement why you're passionate about taking on the challenge of the law. They want to know your story and why you'd be a good fit for this law school and why this law school would be a good fit for you. That could really make your application shine. And it's the same thing with your resume. Law schools want engaged communities. law school is more than just the classroom experience. It is about being part of a professional community, and we want folks that are going to be active participants, take on leadership roles, and you can highlight those things on your resume by doing, being involved in student organizations, taking on leadership roles, being involved in your community, doing community service, or taking on leadership. And so, highlighting those, even if your scores might be below that school's median, by highlighting those soft factors in your application, that can really make you stand out and make a difference in your application. So take all parts of the application process seriously and, really showcase what a well-rounded, engaged individual you are. And that's definitely going to help your prospects in the application, because the admissions committee reads it. They really do. So
basically, the takeaway from this would be you're more than your score.
That's right. Yeah.
Looking at the whole person is the focus here, and
Exactly.
and that's definitely, I think, something that's something students really should be, or prospective students should really be mindful of. So, Dean Kerns, thank you so much for taking part in our first podcast of 2023. So, a lot of really good, helpful, and valuable information here. And so if you'd like more details on our law school, including our admissions team, please visit our website at commonwealthlaw.widener.edu and click on the Prospective Students tab at the top of the page. And you can also reach Dean Kerns and our admissions team by calling 717-541-3903 or by email at admitcwlaw@widener.edu. So thank you for tuning in to our podcast, and until next time, take care.
Widener University Commonwealth Law School is the Pennsylvania capital's only law school, with 3 specialized centers of legal scholarship through its Law and Government Institute, Environmental Law and Sustainability Center, and Business Advising Program. Widener Law Commonwealth offers an exceptional learning experience that is personal, practical, and professional. Visit commonwealthlaw.widener.edu for more information.